and then go to the ad level since you selected it. Perfect, perfect, perfect. You're already there. Great. So what you could do here is turn off that ad. As that spend. So if you remember from the optimization modules, one of the first steps to take is optimizing by turning off ads that are underperforming, and that's a form of scaling as well. So if you turn off ads that are getting spend and not getting results, you'll see here this ad specifically has 8 website purchases at a $9 cost per purchase, which is great for him because anything, below $37 cost per purchase is profitable. So, that's a really good profit right there. But not only that, but out of this here, he has one audience or one ad at $21 and no results. I mean, that's essentially 2 purchases on that other ad. So if he gets rid of that ad and another one, he can essentially free up 3 additional purchases from this audience.
Yep.
Turn that one off. Yep. And then turn off the one at the bottom.
Okay. Gotcha.
So what you'll do is like on your top 3 best ad sets, just go ahead and filter out a few more ads.
Okay. Just whatever the other, like maybe 2 that aren't working.
Exactly. With high spend.
Gotcha.
If you remember from our previous modules, I highly recommend watching it. It goes over the exact strategy for what we're covering here about optimizing on the ad level, because that's a form of scaling as well.
Yeah, where there's high spend. So same thing here.
Yep, 16.
So this guy, yeah. And the others are pretty low.
Look at that. That's 16 amount spent, 0 purchases. That other ad he has is at $5 per purchase. Literally turning off that ad right there unlocks an additional 3 purchases for him on a regular basis again. So we just got an additional 6 recurring purchases out of these audiences just by turning off 2 of those ads. Pretty incredible. And, we didn't even have to increase spend. It's going to scale automatically because that budget's going to shift into the ones that are working, increasing purchases, getting him a lot more sales without having to really do anything about the budget.
Okay, I got you. That makes sense.
That's going to increase purchases by a lot.
Nice. Okay, I'll do that and just keep adding more. Like I said, because we're not losing money, I'm happy just to keep scaling so we can get better data.
Yeah, slowly increase it with the 5 across the board. So we saw, in those examples that if an ad set has 1 to 2 purchases, the ROAS is above break even, daily spend is below 50, you'll double it on the performing ad set 1 time. And then you'll scale, those winners by $5 to $10 every 3 to 7 days until you hit 50 daily, as long as you continue to get purchases and are above break even. So once he actually doubled that spend, he continued to get purchases. He scaled further until he's at 20, and he'll continue to scale that audience until he's at 50 daily, and then which he'll switch to a 10 to 20% scaling strategy from there. And it's important to, do this on a consistent level so that way you're constantly improving results and are able to collect data at a sustainable rate that allows the algorithm and system to learn. Now for the micro budget shifting strategy, what you're going to do is, as you saw in that video, you're going to turn off, what you'll see in the next video is you'll turn off ad sets with no results after 4 to 7 days if other ad sets are starting to get results. So if other ad sets have purchases during the testing phase, you'll turn off ad sets with no purchases and shift their budget into the top 3 performing audience. So let's go ahead and look at that.
Anything to do with the campaigns that have not
turn them
produced
off?
Anything? Just turn them all off?
Yep, turn them all off.
Cool.
And then I would go to your campaign level. Yeah, we'll turn off that other control because that one wasn't producing. Control. You can reactivate that later down the line because it'll end up working for you eventually.
Okay.
So turning those audiences off because they have no purchases at all of that spend now is going to allow the ROAS to increase and the cost per purchase to get better because now it's not spend going towards things that aren't working. You're saving budget, you're getting better results, and it's going to make your metrics much, more clean, and your data is going to be better because now you're not sending in traffic that isn't converting.
Even this one that was
40. That one can be turned off.
Okay, cool.
So you'll notice even the one that has 1 purchase, we're going to turn off because it's at 43 spend. And we notice that there's already other audiences that are getting, $10 cost per purchase with 8 purchases. So we know pretty much that this audience isn't really working right now. So we're going to turn that one off. he'll later on reactivate that control, because once he has enough data in his ad account, you'll be able to have a control audience that's producing, because they'll learn and they'll become one of the most efficient audiences that, most of our students end up seeing. But you have to give that one time. You can continue to let it run on its own, or if you want, you can pause it and bring it back once it's converting. Most people see amazing results with a control audience with time. And so let's go ahead and go over some scaling reminders of what not to do and what to do if certain scenarios play out, because not every single time during scaling it works out perfectly. And that's just something that, naturally can happen with Facebook ads. Sometimes things aren't always consistent. They don't go the way as planned. And so there's fallback rules that you'll follow to ensure that you mitigate any risk for spending and not generating results. So this is the scaling reminders. And these are essentially, to hold you from going overboard on spend, or to allow you to get back on track and constantly be generating results and make it to a point to where you understand what to do if something doesn't go as planned. For instance, if you scale an audience and it does not receive another purchase for 3 to 7 days after you scaled it, you'll then scale that audience back to the spend it was at prior. So let's say that you're at 25 daily and you take that spend to 30 daily, and it doesn't get any more purchases after 3 to 7 days, you'll just take it back to the 25 daily, because it was getting at least one purchase every other day. So it's better to scale back and go back to getting purchases than to scale up and not see any purchases at all. Now, if you scale back that spend to the 25 daily and it still does not perform for 48 hours, you'll turn off that audience. Now, if the audience has consistently performed and it has dropped off in performance after many weeks of running, you'll reset it by testing new ads and starting the budget at half the original scaled spend. So let's say that you've been scaling for some time now. It's been a few weeks. You have your budget, say, maybe around 150. It could be 300 daily. We have students that will go to 900 daily or $1,500 daily spend. And the results are producing, outstandingly. But then they start to notice that with scale, all of a sudden that results are dropping off in performance after many weeks. And even after scaling back their budget some, they're still seeing a decline in performance. And so one thing they can do is, tweak those creatives and audiences by testing new ads and starting the budget again on that audience that was once performing consistently. Audiences don't just magically die, but creatives do. They can reach the audience in full and become fatigued, or it can reach a portion of the audience that was most likely to purchase and they're just not, tuned into the ad because the frequency's gotten very high. So what you do is you reset it by testing new ads within that same audience, because that audience has historically performed for you. So there's a good chance that it'll continue to perform for you if you test new ads within it and you actually scale back the spend. The reason you scale back spend is because now that you're putting in new ads to test, those ads might not hold at that original spend you had. So you're going to scale it back by half and let it run from there to see if it starts to convert. The other scaling reminders are if you hit a ceiling during scaling across multiple audiences. Let's say that, scaling's been going really great for you. You've consistently produced results. You've gotten to a point to where you have multiple audiences. Let's say, 3 to 5 audiences that are at scale for you, which could be 100 daily on each of them. It could be, some of them at 300. It could be, multiple at 70. Whatever's at scale to you, where you have multiple, producing and you're happy with the results. If you hit a ceiling where you feel that, based off of the data, you're seeing that at a certain number, you always notice that there's a ceiling with your actual audiences. Let's say that every single time you hit 150 daily, you can't scale further than that because your results always drop off. But anytime you're at below 150 daily, you're able to consistently produce. And you notice that across multiple audiences, where every single one of these audiences you've scaled up to this point act in the same way and deliver the same results after 150, it just doesn't convert. That is a creative issue. And there's multiple options you can go after this in this sense, because there's a few things you can actually try. One, it could be the creative, right? So you test new creatives that can handle that further scale. It could be that you have multiple large audiences and there's no way that you've reached every single person there. There's no way you've converted all of your customers, right? If you already know that, then that essentially means you need to test new angles that will appeal to different subgroups within that audience. The other thing is, it could be that your audiences have gotten to a point to where once they're at scale, they're overlapping because you have such similar audiences that are producing results that once you've actually scaled up to a certain point, you're competing within yourself and you're raising your own cost per purchase and decreasing your ROAS because of your scaling. So if you've scaled audiences and they start to all underperform, it could be that you've actually overlapped them all at scale. So what you could do is stack those audiences together and continue to run that same creative that's produced, and that will allow you to achieve much higher scale out of those audiences. The other option is to horizontally scale audiences. Horizontal scaling is done through testing additional audiences similar to your top performing. If you know what your top performing audiences are, you're just going to find audiences very similar to that one, and you're going to test lots of single interests that are similar to that, because the more audiences you deploy, the more you can spend. So these are the ways that you can get around scaling, further if you're hitting ceilings in your actual ads manager. So I hope you enjoyed this module. We covered today, the strategy for scaling winners during testing, the 10 to 20% scaling rule after 50 daily to ensure that you don't upset the learning phase. We talked about scaling without increasing spend by turning off actual ads and audiences that aren't producing results. We discuss the micro budget strategy where you shift budget away from underperforming audiences and push them into your top 3 performing audiences. We went over the horizontal scaling strategy where we discuss ways that you can increase spend if you're hitting a ceiling by testing multiple audiences that are similar to your top performers. And if you want to, get further guidance on your Facebook ads to scale, to be able to hit new, levels with your Facebook ads and understand what really makes it possible for, brands to scale to not only $1 million a year, but even upwards of $1 million a month, go ahead and, reach out to get access to our Facebook ads live Q&A group coaching calls. We do 2 sessions every single week, Monday and Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we go over on these calls how to use these same strategies we discuss in our actual, program, but how to implement them live and go through these scenarios as they come through. So I hope you enjoyed this module, and I will see you on the next one.